it is a question of daring. It is a question of trust in one's dreams or one's ideals. Work hard and don't look back. No, it's move forward. Always move forward. They say that entrepreneurship is like a, it's not a straight path, but it's a very tough. But it's for special people, for curious people, and we just have to dare. And if we did something, anyone can do it. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion.
Moira, I like very much what you said. I think that you really, what I heard you say is really that you, in a way, empowered yourself, that just giving yourself the space to say, I'm starting from where I am. It's not much, but I believe that I will be successful. Is this correct?
No, I didn't believe I would be successful, really, but I dared. I believed and I tried. So being tough, maybe you don't think you're going to be successful, but it's strength and determination sometimes what throws you, to survive. It's a question of surviving. When I came here, I had nothing. So I had like a white page to write on.
Moira, and who inspired you? Who made you feel empowered? Because if you're telling me that you came to Barcelona as an immigrant and you didn't really believe you can be so successful as you are, having the company, working internationally, there must have been someone, a person, or maybe an event that kind of, inspired you, that opened this window of saying, yes, I dare, I can. What was it?
I don't want, it wasn't who, it was whom. And in the moments that I didn't have anyone to give me a palm in the back, I had myself. So when I was lost, I had my faith. And when I had somebody that says, Moira, good, you're doing good, no? If I didn't have anyone beside me or in front of me, it's just a question of what do you have inside? Mm-hmm. It doesn't even matter what your way, because sometimes you don't know where you're going to, mm-hmm. but you have to keep on moving. You have to do something. You have to move forward and survive.
So you're saying that you're bearing, actually, that every individual is bearing a responsibility to get somehow inspired yourself to manage your own future.
Yes.
Perfect. I love this entrepreneurial attitude. I am very and I also have hard time believing that we will be successful from time to time, because indeed the entrepreneurial journey is a wonderful creative path of ups and downs. Thank you, Moira, very much. So the second dimension about empowering others is by connecting people. So you're opening the doors. You're opening the itinerary for professional advancement in a corporation. And maybe I could ask some persons who are here with us coming from big organizations to tell what is the practice of empowering others by connecting. There are many different corporate programs for connecting talent. Would anyone want to take the floor and share how this is being done in corporate world?
I can do this, Daria, if you want. Actually, I wrote a little bit on the chat.
If you just could introduce yourself so people know who you are and what is your background. I mean, not behind you.
All right. So my name is Jeff Terradas. I have been for 35 years with Hewlett-Packard, and I have been in executive positions, mostly in R&D and managing some interim management positions. So, and working around the world with different groups in the US, in Asia, in Israel, and worldwide, basically, responsibilities, right? So I think what I was saying here is the way you empower your team is by giving them the confidence, giving them the opportunity, and also the responsibility, both. And as one of my first bosses told me is less control is more control here, and is the way to be able to manage very large teams also, and gives the opportunity to your teams to develop themselves, so professionally and personally.
And Jeb,
And with respect to how to connect, as you were saying, because of the environment that we are working, most of these responsibilities, what you can do is be those that are related to with teams that are not sitting next to you or close to you. Well, nowadays everybody is virtual, but you know what I mean.
Mhm. And Jeb, could you give some, examples from your career? You were working, trying to bring in people, to connect really people from very different avenues. You were trying to connect, deep core engineers, working on, 3D printers, if I remember right, and opening this new lab in Barcelona. And then you were trying to connect with people who were right there, coming, potential clients coming to visit the HP lab in Barcelona. Could you tell us what did you see work and what did you see did not work through this empowerment of really your team, of getting products, getting your inventions, technologies, solutions to the market?
Yeah, I can speak about this, and also Mireia, who joined us today, she has been working a lot with partners, but that's true. We are not
That's
only
me. I was also in HP many
Exactly.
years together with Jeb and the teams there. Yeah.
So it's not only with the people in your company, which might be easier, but with key accounts, with your customers, with your channel partners, with your technology partners. How do you build? For me, it's always building trust and confidence that you are, what you say is what you're going to do, even things change around you, and you need to manage this. So taking people into these discussions that when they are growing is a very good way to help them develop here.
Mm-hmm.
One way.
Mireia, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, it's just very aligned with Jeff, and that happens often to us. So for me, it's important also to make sure we lead by example. So we have to acknowledge that more senior managers are observed by the people. So lead by example, behave based on values, be humble to others, show empathy. For instance, when we talk about multicultural, I used to show them cultural curiosity about the different languages, whatever. I used to share with them that I also had my I've been also an expert in the past, so showing that that was not a barrier, that was well understood, was a value. And then a lot of healthy tension between asking for results, but being compassionate about the difficulties and the differences.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Know each other, helping others to know themselves also.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for these concrete examples and hints, Jeb and Mireia. And if I may call, to speak Paul Tolczynski, Professor Tolczynski, who's with us here, and he's an internationally renowned expert in organizational development. Paul, we didn't connect. I didn't tell you that I will call you to speak, but I would love you to share your examples, maybe from India. We talked recently about it, how organizations engage to make their employees feel empowered, and the teams within an organization. Paul, would you like to share, from the big picture and organizational picture?
I mean, I'd be happy to. I mean, first of all, I did a lot of work for many years at HP. And so I think the HP story resonates often, right? As a good exemplar, it lost its way for a while and then refound its way, I think, from my history of it. But, I mean, I think it's, when you talk about empowerment, there are certain beliefs that organizations operationalize. The first is that the wisdom is in the system, right? In India, my client in India, they do a process called mirror, mirror on the wall, which is a self-guided reflection process for 50,000 people where they all have voice, right? And they all share their yearnings. They can connect with each other sort of in a small way and in a big way, right? To feel part of something bigger. So I thought, that's, for me, that's always the first, right? The other one is probably the one that's most radical is the freedom to fail, right? when you say empowerment, what does that really mean? Well, it means that if you screw up, nobody's going to shoot you, right? You know, I put in the chat box, I said, you know, it's the freedom to fail, which means learn fast and succeed, right? Most of us who are entrepreneurs have learned you never get it right the first time. In the US, it's almost impossible to get venture capital money if you haven't failed 3 or 4 times, right? Because the assumption is in those moments, learning occurs and continuous improvement happens. And so it's sort of, how do you create a place where people have the freedom to fail, right? And I don't mean screw up horribly and make things bad, but I mean make a mistake and reflect on it quickly and iterate to whatever the next solution would be. That's, for me, the epitome of empowerment. You know, in my example, I mean, in India, you know, you mentioned India, but it's, in India, there is a culture of collaboration underlying the Indian way, right? And so people respect each other, they treat each other with dignity, they connect at the head and heart, you know, and they honor each person's voice, right? So, you know, mirror, mirror on the wall is just a good way of doing that. You have another process where, you know, every quarter they look at what they're doing and say, should we still be doing this? Right? How do we continually evolve it? I'm empowered today to do something, but 3 months from now, something might change. Right? And so how do I have that freedom to continually evolve and grow and change? The last thing I would say, Daria, is I'm an organization designer, right? So, you know, you say bring empowerment into the room. My old professor would say it's impossible, right? It's a concept. It's like breathing air. It's an attitude, right? He would always say, you have 15 minutes, go into the hallway and find me empowerment, bring it in here. And he would sit back in his chair and, you know, and everybody would look at him befuddled. You know, and when he would finally let go of it, he would say, it's about the work, right? So empowerment is, how do we design work, right? Which is decision authority, accountability, responsibility, clarity, alignment to purpose, right? It's you know, and so as an org designer, I always think about, if you want empowerment, you have to change the way work gets done, and who does it, right? What should I be doing versus what should you be doing? And the you might be somebody at another level, might be somebody in another function or with another expertise. But I really come at it from how do we reallocate, right? Decision authority, information, the tools to get work done.
Got it. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank you all. And I think that this is really kind of food for thought for all of us, that when we say empowerment, and I loved where Moira started, and I really appreciate, Moira, that you were the first and you just put it on the right track. And I remember having the conversation with Evelina. Evelina told me, Daria, you will speak about and lead a discussion about how to empower your team. And I said, you know, no, I will really speak about how to empower myself as an individual. And Moira started from this very moment, because it's impossible to share power, because empower means sharing power with others, if you do not feel that you possess power. Yeah, Paul, I want.
Can I tell one short story? Can I tell one very short story? Yeah, I was doing a change project in a Ford Motor Company facility, and we had literally all the employees in this facility together for 3 days to talk about how they wanted to take accountability and responsibility for their world and what it could look like. And for a large part of the time, the blue collar workers mostly complained about their bosses, how they got in the way, how they didn't let them do things, how they were basically useless. And on the third day, there was an exercise where every work team got back together and had the job of deciding what they would do Monday morning when they went back to work. And one of the other facilitators came up to me and said, table number, blah, 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 wants to see you. They have a problem doing this activity. I said, okay. And so I went over to them and I said, what's the problem? And one of the workers at the table said, our supervisor isn't here. How can we do this assignment if our supervisor isn't here? where the hell is he? And I looked at them and I said, no, wait a minute, I don't quite understand. For the last 3 days, you've been telling me that you're useless and you don't need them. So I don't quite understand why it is you can't do this assignment. Right? And all of a sudden in that moment, what empowerment really meant, if it is to be, it's up to me. Empowerment is, I have to take responsibility and accountability for getting it done. And you could see the light bulbs going off in people's heads. And one of the workers looked at one of the other ones and said, get the flip chart, get the marker. We got this, right? But it's that empowerment isn't something somebody does to you, right? It's something you come to. And, obviously in an organization culture, you need the system, right, to support it and encourage it and not put out the flame of it. But beyond that, right, it's that moment where you say, oh my God, empowerment means I have to do something, right? And I always remember that story because when you could see the little light bulbs go off in this group's heads when they realized that it was true. They really didn't need him. And they knew exactly what they needed to do. Right? And all they needed to do was step up in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I love what Michael wrote in the chat, that we could change the empower to empower. I like it, Michael, very, very much. And building on what Paul was saying, and Jeb and Mireya, I just want to tell you a little bit different case study, because we all talked about so far about an organization that is structured within certain clear boundaries. So we know who pays us, right? So we know where we belong. This concept, transactional, I come to work, I'm part of this organization. But what I observe more and more is that there is a new type of organizations taking place, that the borders between organizations are much more blurred. And this goes down to business models. This goes down to certain changes in industrial sectors, to many different variables. But I would like to share with you a story of a Dutch company that you can think about in different ways, but I really think about them as a kind of investment boutique company 2.0. So I used to work in a venture fund, and this was damn simple. We had money. The entrepreneurs were out there to squeeze out the best they could out of the companies that we invested in, and we were to deliver maximized returns for our investors. This was also simple, and this was indeed a very coercive culture. We were there to control, we were there to know what is happening, we were there to do due diligence, and we were due to secure the most successful exit strategy. There was no time for collaboration, for sharing. We could have said, and our managers could have said, that we've been trying to assist entrepreneurs, but you know what? I mean, honestly, this was not part of the culture. And Eindhoven Engine is a company that invests in challenge-based tech and science projects to commercialize it. Of course, if you commercialize, you're expecting profits, but also to make societal impact. So they have money, but they have also a mission beyond maximizing returns. And this gives me just, a glimpse into a shift that is happening really in big companies, even among investors in the Silicon Valley, that more and more commercial organizations are looking for something beyond profit. In the public sector, we speak about the shift from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. But from a company bottom up looking, we realize that people at different career paths want to do something more than earn money. That companies want to feel that they have a sense of mission, a sense of purpose, something beyond serving their customers only. In our research that we've done at Tata Innovation, we were looking how companies are connected with their different stakeholder groups, and you would be surprised that many are not connected, that 50% or so are not connected at all with universities and research centers, but surprisingly bigger number, over 60%, declared that they are connected with their ecosystem, meaning with their community, with their neighborhood, that they are somehow connected to the social structure, although not to the innovation ecosystem. And this company, placed in one of the top innovation hubs in Europe, if not in the world, in Eindhoven. By the way, 40% of all patents in the Netherlands come from this one ecosystem of a city of 200,000 people. When we worked with Katja and her team, I tried to understand what was her challenge at the beginning of the pandemic. And I understood that really, as a CEO, she faced 7 challenges. Number one, very short term. The pandemic started, they used to work face-to-face, now they cannot work face-to-face. How do we do it? How do we shift to keep up the performance of the team, to keep up the sense of strategic alignment that we all know what to do, and that we, do not find ourselves in doing something different, counterproductive? How do we keep the team together? Number 2 is simply about reskilling. Suddenly, she realized that people needed to learn new skills, and we can think about digital skills as skills to use digital tools. And I'm always challenging companies and teams and executives I'm working with, because reskilling and digital skills is not about using the digital tools. It's really about changing the way we think about using the tools. And it is true that tools precondition and enable us to do something in certain way. And as Paul was saying, this is really about the designing the work. But it's more than kind of, learning to use those digital platforms. Let me just give you one example, a virtual onboarding. We all go to conferences, to events, online events, online conferences, online team meetings, online meetings within our organizations. And we do not really think about the fact that many things that go not unspoken when we're face-to-face do not go outspoken when we're digital. Because you need to introduce yourself, you need to virtually onboard yourself to this little social connection. You need to establish it, and it should not be taken for granted that people know who you are, where you're coming to, that anything that is obvious and that goes in between the words, is not communicated like this when we're digital. And part of the empowerment I saw somewhere in the chat was about communication. And this is true, that communication is really a great tool to empower yourself and others. So when you're thinking about reskilling yourself or your team, think about how to take attention, how to pay attention to the things that you could have taken as obvious, but suddenly they are not obvious for you reading your team members, and for your team members reading and decoding your behavior. So reskilling in a kind of more deeper way. Then a third challenge she faced was about sharing people and skills. They invested in projects in science, led teams. They had people working for them, but all these people were somehow part-time. I realized that actually it was amazing to see an organization that manages money and everyone is doing things part-time. So sharing human resources, sharing time, attention, understanding where is the level of confidentiality and where are these Chinese walls that you need to build, where is the level of governance and a level of mentoring, coaching, supporting, connecting. And I realized that what struck me is that when I look back into the research that we've done developing our network intelligence concept, we tried to understand how people use networking in a very basic way. So not to achieve a big purpose, but really in a day-to-day operations. And there was a surprisingly small number of people who use networking to share resources. And in this group, only 20% were declaring that they are successful. So in a way, sharing turned out to be a big challenge. And believe it or not, but all the successful business models and huge companies created over the last decades are really about sharing. sharing resources, sharing content, sharing time, sharing everything you can, sharing apartments, sharing cars. It's all about sharing physical, digital, and human resources. So I realized that this was really a much deeper challenge, that you could think that it goes beyond a kind of coordination or orchestration or project management, right? Portfolio project management. It went deeper because she wanted to get the best she could out of the human resources she had, the talent she had. And this sharing capability were not obvious, that people that were in her team, extended team, knew how to share. The fourth challenge was about the role of middle management in a virtual organization. So quite often when I worked in big corporations, there was a bottleneck. And Jeb and other corporate, friends and colleagues and guests who are here, quite often you hear that it's really the middle level management who blocks the change, who kind of does not want to transform the organization. And even in small structures, in small teams, the middle level management, this executive level, this operational level is absolutely critical for success. And the managers, I'd love what Jeb, you said, that less control is more control, but actually it's pretty difficult to give up control. It's pretty difficult to take risk that people may do things not as you want them to do, not because they are bad people, but because they are afraid of telling you that they don't know how to do it, or maybe because they don't want to share that they have made a mistake, or maybe they don't really understand, what is there to be done, and not only what, but what is most important, how to get certain thing done, which is kind of different than getting something done. And I realized that in a virtual organization, the role of middle level managers, of project managers, of people who report to the top leaders is absolutely critical to help them embrace a new way of leading teams. And I would say that really the challenge in Katya's case was that since the company invested in tech projects, the question was how those middle level managers were to engage with the teams that they invested in. And again, if you worked in a research center or at a university and in business, you're coming from a business environment, you know that these are two different cultures. Every culture speaks a different language. There are biases, there are stereotypes. It's not obvious to engage the people who do not think that this engagement brings them value. Yesterday, we had a fantastic after party at Clubhouse with Stanford people. And they said that in Stanford, there are two types of people. There are techies and fuzzies. The techies are the smart people. The fuzzies are all the rest. Okay. And I said, hey, if this is the case, probably these guys do not have high network intelligence, because if you do not understand that, that we're all responsible to engage together, to deliver something together. If you're by default think that because you're a professor, you're more important than students, or because you're a corporate person, you're more important than an entrepreneur who's trying to reach your attention, you will surely under-deliver as a team of smart and even connected people. And then the sixth challenge that she had was about to build a community and partnership. So her business model was really to bring on board industry and to collocate with those researchers and startup entrepreneurs and have them connect as a family. Now, in certain cultures, it comes easier than in others to build a family. I'm sure our friends from Mexico or South America will say that there is an extended sense of family. So you're bringing many people on board, but this is not so much true if you're working in certain parts of Europe, and definitely in very transactional cultures, in cultures that are coming from a different sense of what it means, this connectivity, this social connectivity. And I would say that it was a challenging and a daunting task to somehow bring all these partners together to speak one voice, to feel that they're one part of one big family. A very trivial question people face is someone did not answer my email. Someone didn't answer my phone call. Someone didn't react to my request. And recently I've been coaching people who are on our Network IQ development programs, and I could compare how different Spaniards think about this little problem and how different the Dutch people think about this little problem, that someone simply does not respond when I ask the person to do something, not even to do something, if I'm asking for information. And I coach a very young person about how to build this community whenever you are in an organization. And what keeps community together, it's communication. So if you stop communicating, you fall out of the community automatically. If you communicate, if you keep communicating, you build the social structure. And the basic tip I gave this person who was working in an international environment from Spain, I said, this is perfectly fine to push a little bit immediately and just kindly ask, have you received my message? Even if you're speaking to a very senior person. In the Netherlands, we had a totally different case, which I found actually fascinating when it comes to network intelligence. A person said, you know, if I want to connect with anyone, I have all the people in my phone book, you know, so I don't need to connect to other people. And this kind of the senior executive opened my eyes to the fact that actually those, you know, highly experienced, highly contextual, having a lot of tacit knowledge executives, you know, if they do not value enough the way that simply answering to all these people below them and connecting with diverse people beyond the people who've been part of their networks for decades, this ecosystem, this community, this partnership will underperform. And the last challenge Katja had was about disrupting the ecosystem. And really, you know, Eindhoven is a pretty dense, very dynamic ecosystem. Everyone knows everyone because it's so small. And, you know, how do you innovate if you're at the forefront of innovation? Okay, where do you learn from? How do you change? How do you realize what you could do differently if actually everything works perfectly well, right? For what would you disrupt the ecosystem? And I think that answering this question was also not an easy challenge, and how to communicate within the ecosystem and globally so that better projects come their way to invest, that better people apply for their job, that more qualified and more passionate executives want to coach and mentor and work with these younger people coming from different avenues, different countries. So these were the challenges that she was facing. And I wonder, let me now give the voice to you. Does this resonate in any way to you? And then I will wrap up saying how we tackled some of the problems that Katja and her team were tackling. But does it resonate? Do you see yourself, do you see your organizations at somewhere in this dynamically changing pandemic moment of crisis that is always an opportunity? Do you see yourself? Can you share some strategies, maybe situations, how, you know, an executive, a team leader was able to mitigate some of these challenges by empowering himself, herself, or the people around within the close team, but maybe within the broader ecosystem of partners, clients, co-investors? How do you see it?
Perhaps I can add something, Daria, because I've been part of that ecosystem for more than 30 years. And in fact, I've made various contributions to a lot of developments that have been going on there. And what is very important in my experience is the willingness to experiment. So you have to take some risks here and there. You have to take decisions that you're not completely sure of, and then you just have to see what will happen and learn from that and improve upon that. So that is very important, and the more you are embedded in such an ecosystem, the better the people around you will understand that sometimes you're not sure what to do and you just have to take the first step. So you also have to understand that a lot of people around you are in similar situations and are also looking for ways to learn and to improve.
Ferry, could you give a concrete example?
Well, one of the things that we have done, I've been working part of my professional career at Philips Research. And one of the things that we have been doing at a certain point in time is that we have put some of our new ideas in separate ventures, where teams have been, you could say, empowered to follow their own ideas and to further work out the innovations they have been working on, because we saw that the end would not fit in the portfolio of the company as such. So we really put them apart. We also gave them separate incentive schemes and so on. But we also added the message that, well, we help you to make a success of this. If you fail, then you have to look for another job somewhere else because you have to leave the company. If you're successful, you can be very rich and you can be following your dreams in that sense. So you also have to empower the people to take their own destination and follow their own intuition.
Thank you very much. This is a great example. I think it's really, picking on the entrepreneurial people who are ready to, and are actually excited to take that risk. And then the big company is able to say, hey, we support you, and we invest, we take risk, and you bear the consequences for success or for failure. Thank you very much. Not failure, for learning. For learning.
And of course, in such a team, you need the right mix, because you have to have very entrepreneurial people, but you also have to add, and we did so in some of those cases, very experienced people, for instance, with legal or regulatory capabilities, to prevent that unnecessary mistakes are made, or that at least there is some level of compliance to be acceptable in what you're delivering in the end.
So it is about a right mix of people in the team with hardcore competences, but I would also say that probably with those soft skills as well.
Yes, yeah.
Any other person who would like to share the insights of how your organization, your team were dealing under the conditions of the pandemics with some of the challenges Katja's faced?
Can I just add something to what Ferry added?
Absolutely.
I think that the
Andrea,
yes?
If you could just introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Andrea Zulum de Zwarte, and I work at both University Medical Center in Utrecht and Utrecht University for the strategic team of life sciences. What I have seen at both university and medical center, which was of course during when the crisis started, I mean, everything was just focused on patient care and how to very quickly assist healthcare, but also research and education. So it had to be done very quickly. People were also very willing to assist, regardless in which where they were actually in an organization. So everybody was very motivated to help. What I could see is that there was more room for experimentation because no one really knew what to do, regardless of the level of the hierarchy. I mean, the Netherlands doesn't have such a high hierarchical culture either. So if people would be coming with ideas, they would hack it, and then they would continue, and didn't really matter who came together as long as there was a solution. And then you can see that this, just by doing this, this creates a dynamic which empowers people, which empowers groups, which brings up new projects, and that created a sense of solidarity within an organization, and it gave energy to continue, even though it was really hard. So I could see that people were just empowered by themselves, by believing that they can do it, because it was allowed to everybody. Everybody was suddenly the same point. Everybody was in front of the screen, or everybody was at the patient. Everybody didn't have time to think of anything else. So I was actually quite happy that the executive board made a very good decision to bring everybody to the same level, to the same point from the beginning, and communicating very, very clearly, internally and externally. So that gave the boost to the organization. And I think that the willingness to experiment then is also high, and people produce then things that are remarkable. What you see now is that everybody's looking, how do we continue and how do we structure that? Now it's disrupted, so what do we do now?
Andrea, this is a great insight. And I like what you pointed to, this dynamics, that when the crisis started, suddenly everyone was much more open to disrupt yourself and open to trust and share. And this new mindset created a sense of solidarity, which is a social capital, should not be wasted when things go business as usual, right? That's true. So since we're coming to the end of today's webinar, let me share the last slide and explain a little bit how this concept of network intelligence and network IQ competency framework worked in the case of Eindhoven Engine. So as a quick wrap up for those who are new, the network intelligence, we define it as basically, in the business school, they have these 2x2 matrix. We found it hard to put the reality into the 2x2 box, so we kind of added a third dimension. And these 3 dimensions, these 3 axes basically are a sense of purpose or mission. So it's really answering the question, why we are doing something, what will success look like, and how will my community around me change if we're successful. The second dimension is the concept of a team, or those close-knit ties, if you wish. And this is really about the expanded team concept. So to give you an example, we are a small company, and our clients are actually our R&D department. They are probably fascinated to learn with us, but instead of us kind of ordering the surveys to external company, our clients take interest to learn with us and help advance our products and solutions. And this is what I mean by an expanded team. If you're able to connect with your ecosystem in a very meaningful way, if there is this sense of purpose between you and your clients, you can become a team. You're giving to them something valuable, and they giving you back something valuable for you. And the third dimension is really this concept of ecosystem. And sometimes, we instinctively know what is an ecosystem, but when it comes to understanding what is my ecosystem, we kind of are a little bit lost. What is this about, right? I am here and the whole universe is around me. And the way we think about ecosystem is in a structural way. It's a network. It's actually a network of networks with all the implications of what a network hierarchy is possible to do for you or your organization. So, marginalize you totally at a millisecond, or create a network effect that suddenly you will be flashed with clients, with investors, with opportunities that you're not able to consume, right? So it's this structure that we are, if we're connected, we are under the laws of networks. And the second dimension is culture. within a network, you have other networks, and you have clusters of people, clusters of organizations, and this proximity matters. You become a community. You become a community of communities. So it's good to understand, to map this ecosystem, understand which are the key communities, and then who are the right people for you to advance the itinerary, the journey to get to the purpose that your team wants to get. So as a quick wrap up, what we did with Katya and her team first was create a sense of intimacy to work as a virtual team. Working digitally, we get very alienated. We're just humans. We need this physical connection. And being able to open up and to go beyond the sense of comfort, the zone of comfort, and embrace this emotionality by sharing something, a story, an emotion, a moment outside work, it's important. So the first step was to create a sense of intimacy, which opened us for people to talk about their purpose. And it turned out that in some cases, the purpose of the company was totally not aligned with the personal purpose. And this is fine, but it's good to have the awareness of both sides that probably there is not much synergy. The second thing, when this alignment of purpose was there, we mapped the ecosystem. So we kind of understood who's were connected, how, and people were surprised to discover uncommon connections. And this again created a sense of proximity, a sense of intimacy. They were also surprised to understand that actually as a team, they know everyone probably whom they need to know. If I don't know, you surely know someone who can be of help to me. We just didn't think it can be useful. And so then we understood in these key communities who are the right people and made this purpose network fit, which is our process. Number one, understand the purpose. Number two, map your ecosystem, so identify key communities. Number three, identify the key people. And then number four, develop an action plan and execute it, how to engage as a team, not as an individual, as a team with the people somewhere out there, sometimes in your expanded teams, sometimes out there within the crowds, within the global digital ecosystem. Then we also identified the skill gaps. You know that we were working on 7 skills, which together make this network intelligence concept, network IQ competency framework, and we identified that really the key skills that they would need to develop to strengthen within the team was networking, collaboration for diversity and influence, and this is what we work individually with to strengthen these skills. I love to say about the skills that they're just skills. If you're aware you need them, you can surely learn them, right? Better or worse, right? Like reading and writing, we can all learn skills. And then we work on a kind of more strategic issues. Number one was reputation and trust. This is not to underestimate in the digital interconnected world how important is your digital identity and how you must build your reputation versus different stakeholder groups. Number two, the development was of a community. So basically her communication team had a mandate to bring those projects that they invested in with different people coming from very different cultures, hardcore engineers, business people, mentors, and how to make them, turn them into one big community. So this concept of a community as a team. And believe me, the question that they don't answer was one of the core obstacles to building a community. People just, because they're busy, because they are not interested, because they are disconnected from the system, from the digital networks, it's hard to engage with them. And we developed different strategies for this. And the last one was really networking strategies. So how do you connect within your ecosystem first, and then out there broadly to advance the agenda? So that I was very pleased to learn that new projects were coming their way. Many more projects were coming their way, and they could invest in out of bigger pool of talent and technologies. So this is the story that I wanted to share with you, real life story that we worked on. And since we're coming to the end of this class, I'm very happy to stay longer. You are all very welcome to stay for an extended Q&A session and just an informal discussion. And if you cannot, I would warmly invite you to join me on Clubhouse. So I'm new on Clubhouse. It is an application that is like Twitter, but audio. It's basically a drop-in audio. And I know, Moira, that you will love it. It's come out of California. It's for the moment, it's beta phase, working only on iPhone. After 10 months, they're valued at $1 billion. The target valuation end of this year is 40 billion. And I'm there, I'm exploring, and tomorrow I will speak with Martin Scoormans, with people who are from the Netherlands, probably heard the name, and Eindhoven, surely crowds don't know him. So Martin is an expert in artificial intelligence. I'm an expert in network intelligence. So you will listen to a discussion between a techie and a fuzzy. And at 4 p.m., very welcome to join us on Clubhouse. But you're very welcome to stay, and I'm open to take any questions. Please unmute yourself if you want to speak. And
I see.
Moira, but you know, yesterday when we had this, I was invited on a panel to speak about the future of the global engineering education. And there was a senior executive from Boeing. There was a professor from Milan, expert in innovation entrepreneurship. And I was coming from this diverse experiences of building new institutions, building companies, doing research. And we were hosted by Paul Marca, who for 25 years was leading executive education at Stanford School of Engineering. So all those companies, all those big companies are coming from this very school. And Paul said an amazing thing. He said, hey, we don't teach engineering, we don't teach engineering at Stanford. I mean, engineering school, those guys are so smart, they will learn engineering anyway. Just as they go. What we teach them soft skills. And this is really important, that they have those leadership skills, collaboration skills, cultural literacy skills. So, a techie without network intelligence has a low market value. A techie with a high network intelligence, speaking to fuzzies and being able to collaborate with them, creates those multi-billion companies or great solutions, for very complex challenges. But I am definitely at the fuzzy side.
Me too.
Any other question, or anyone would like to comment on something?
Hi everybody. Hi, Saurabh from Strasbourg here. I'm totally new to this. I mean, I heard Daria for the first time.
Saurabh, please only introduce yourself.
Hi, yes. So I'm a scientist and innovation professional. I worked on CRISPR for last 8 years. Then, till 2018. Then I moved to do a master in innovation management, and then I'm basically here. I'm just going around. I go to a lot of hackathons. I'm definitely from the healthcare side of it. And I heard Daria for the first time in EITM Manufacturing Summit, I suppose. And since then, I'm following her. And so, it's great to be here. For me, I understand the value of the network, but to segment it to segment it in so many steps, to realize the value of each and every step, and to understand and to meet so many different people. So I was just silently listening. So I just wanted to comment that pleasure to be here. That's all.
Thank you, Sabra. Thank you. So, why network is important for you?
I will tell you how I got my job, basically. So I have at the moment 3 job offers. I haven't signed any, but it was, for me, this was the main step at the moment when I was looking for jobs. And I didn't want to work exclusively as a scientist. I didn't want to do a bench work anymore. I did it for almost 10 years of my life, last 10 years, 12 years of my life. And I wanted to move out. Science can be very lonely on the bench. And I was genuinely a hardcore scientist. I was a biologist. I worked in different areas, neurobiology, molecular biology, genetics. And at the moment, I'm a geneticist at the moment. This is how I finished my research on. And when you do science, you have basically no outside network. And then I started going to all these events. I started volunteering for a lot of places. I understand the first point that you were talking about, empowering, and then Moira was talking about empowering yourself basically. So I realized what I should do, and I realized there's a lot I don't know, and there's a lot which I had no idea about the world of industry, about the world of innovation. And I mean, everything I learned about innovation, more than I learned in my master, was by interacting people like you. So for me, network is of absolutely. I mean, it's the biggest resource you can have, actually.
Fantastic. I do agree with you that having a network and being able to use it strategically and having this purpose network fit, so having the right network for your purpose, or rather, you know, tapping on the right resources in your network in the right way, is extremely important. And you know, one of the final steps in our process of this purpose network fit is how to say thank you. So when we're developing this concept, you know, we already know which are the 2-3 key communities that we should strategically focus on understanding what's going on, the trends, the opportunities, the risks. And then we identify the key people, and sometimes key person is not necessarily a decision maker. So it's a key person does not need to have a big title, okay, or a corner office, quite the opposite. And then we design a strategy how to engage with them. So, for example, entrepreneurs, we worked with the group of science entrepreneurs in the UK out of the best 9 universities, including Oxford, University of Manchester, London School of Economics. They were coming from all around the world, so really the best and brightest, entrepreneurial. They all had a piece of technology, a piece of knowledge put together into a solution. And we were developing the plan how to virtually engage with potential clients to validate their value proposition. And to do it, it's not about knocking on the door. Like investors would tell you, it's not about knocking on the door and pitching. It's really about having a reputation and having a knowledge and understanding what this person cares about. Who is this person connected with? What is the agenda? What are the challenges? So you need to see a human, behind the money the check that this person can sign, and the same with the client. And one final step when we worked with this group of scientists was, how to say thank you for anything that anyone gives you, And sometimes we live so fast with so many different things that small things somehow get lost. And you say thank you in different ways in different cultures. And this was, it's a totally different discussion, but I just want to alert you that always the dot at the end is to saying thank you for however someone empowered you. Inspired, you can say thank you. It was inspirational for me. Connecting, always say thank you and think who you can connect with, a reciprocity, and then engage. If people invest time in engaging with you, be appreciative. They don't need to do it. There are millions of other people that they could, engage with. So
I definitely appreciate these things. I mean, I this is why I'm here. This is what I'm telling you. Like, I have been following you for, EITM Summit happened, and I'm following you on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and I read everything you write. I have 2 mentors. One of them is a CEO in Switzerland, and another one is from GE Healthcare. And this is exactly what they try to tell me as well. And I'm genuinely thankful to everybody I have met in the last 2 years. But it's impossible to say thanks to each and everybody. But I make sure that I show my appreciation in one way or the other. That's for sure.
Fantastic.
Thank you again.
Saurak, it's a pleasure, and I'm flattered. I'm blushing, for these compliments. But it's not only me. We're a small but fantastic team. Evelina and Magdalena are here with me, and Marcello is not. And then we have a number of experts and consultants who work with us. And it's, this concept of network intelligence and the process of developing the right networks for the purpose, and this purpose network fit would not would not happen if not for this collaboration.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
You're most welcome. Any other comments or questions?
Me, Gabi.
Gabriel, please.
I'm Gabi. I live here in Monterrey, Mexico. I met you also at the EIT Health, and I've been following you as well as Saurabh. And I just wanted to ask you, once I heard you said that one of my main problems, I've been working in academia and universities. I work right now at Tecnológico de Monterrey, is one of the biggest universities and academias here in Mexico. I work in the health area that it's called Tech Salud. And I'm a dietitian, so I promote everything related to nutrition, diet, and right now I did a master's in nutrigenomic. So we are looking for personalized medicine and personalized nutrition and everything. But one of my main disappointments in 20 years that I've been working, and 20 years as a dietitian and working in institutions, universities, and academia, is that most people don't engage the way you want you, because I thought it was a problem in academia. So I started my side business and I started working as an entrepreneur in health in this pandemic. And I felt the same. I tried to make a team and people will not engage the way you want to. And you said right now, thank you to Evelina and my team, they're there, and maybe because they're engaged with you. And I've been dealing with this and this disappointment, this roller coaster of disappointment about my teams. I thought it was because I was working in an academia and my boss puts my team with me and we work really well. I'm a true believer that teamwork, it's the key for success. But now that I'm looking for my own team, I've been struggling with this. And once you said that sometimes you can outsource, don't make them your team, just outsource. But even though with that, you don't find the same engagement or the engagement you need to get your goals. That's the comment that I've been dealing with in my job in academia, and now that I'm as an entrepreneur in field.
So I think that there are two different aspects to what you're asking. One is really about a collaborations culture in academia, right? And the other one is really about building an entrepreneurial team and kind of sharing resources. So it was a long time ago, and I was working in a business school, and it felt lonely. I would say very lonely being in academia. And I read a great article in Harvard Business Review. I don't remember now who was the author, but basically he was saying that business schools are the places where people don't connect because they don't want to connect, because they want to focus on their research. They want to minimize the intrusion into their lives. They just don't want to be part of the organization. They want to be as little as possible to be part of the organization. And I think that simply there are cultures like this, where there is the ratio of the return on your investment to network. This is one of the really cool things that we do when we strategize. Why would you invest in networking? Why would you invest money, time, emotions, connections, because you also invest your network, right? So you're opening up your connections when you're networking with others. So you can lose actually a lot, if you do it without strategy. You can erode your brand. So there are many things that go down, and I think that simply in certain professions and certain cultures, the punishment for networking is bigger than the reward for networking, for connecting within the team and within the organization. Again, drawing back on our research, I was really surprised where we discovered that 55% of respondents of one of our research pieces declared that they are not networked at all within one another. So, you're working in one room with the strangers. you're really building a glass wall, and you just don't want to connect. You don't want to have them as Facebook friends, right? I'm not on Facebook, but this is a kind of, signal. What I was really surprised, Gabi, working with another organization, is that people didn't even want to be connected on LinkedIn. And I was trying to understand this phenomena because, when you think rationally, not connecting on LinkedIn with your colleagues, why would you not connect with your colleagues on LinkedIn, right? You're one organized, to what? And people just want this to be their private network. And we're working on creating a mindset shift saying, hey, it's not about you. It's about you as a community, as a team, as an organization. If you're connected, they will help you because you have at least part of your agenda is common, right? And practicing those LinkedIn workouts were a great tool for us to create a mindset shift in the team, to have people simply connect, invite each other, then learn how to engage on each other posts. It is not trivial. How do you engage with your boss? How do you engage with your colleague? How do you engage with someone who reports to you, right? You do it digitally in public, right? But it is the same underlying barriers, assumptions, stereotypes as we have offline, right? But online, it's a bit risky because they're just out there visible. So people see that there's a person who's very central to the network. Sure, he's very connected. So people think, this person is very influential, and credible. People trust this person, right? And that person is totally marginalized from a community, right? So this person will be deprived from many opportunities. So this is about the, academic culture, that certain things should not be changed or cannot be changed, to whatever is the downside for on many different aspects. But to come to building the team, but personally, I find it also extremely challenging as an entrepreneur, and my team members can say that I find it very challenging. But what is one discovery for me, personal discovery, was that partly the challenge was coming from my assumption of control. I had an embedded sense that I need to control people who work with me. And this control, had different strings attached for different reasons. And the big breakthrough when things started to turn around was that where I really, as Jeb, who was working for a huge corporation, he said, the less control, the more control. And I somehow opened up to the ability to say, hey, that's true that there may be a failure, but maybe a failure is better because we will all learn. And the next time, I will not need to have this sense of control over my team. And then my team will really have a sense of control over me, right? To chase me, that I do something that is relevant for them. So it's sometimes the mindset shift of an entrepreneur, especially as I guess we're both coming from an academic culture. There, it's a very different working culture in a small team.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
So I think we are going to the end, right?
Thank you,
no
Daria.
questions.
Thanks again for your knowledge.
It's been absolutely a pleasure to see you. Thank you so
Our
much.
pleasure.
And Evelina, please, let's invite and Magda for the next webinar next month, right? It's again 4 p.m. It's, do I remember
Also,
correctly? March 17th?
Yes,
17th
same.
March. And the topic will be digital communication. Digital communication. I think it's pretty important.
Hope to see you with us.
Hope to see you. Thank you.